everyone, and welcome back to the Temple of Isis Fellowship Academy, and this is class 2. Welcome back. If you have not watched class 1, I would go ahead and watch that while it is there. Class 2, we're going to be looking at chapter 1 in our book called Mythic Astrology, Internalizing the Planetary Powers. Okay, so in the first chapter, this is where we talk about the planets. This is where we get into the planets, and then we'll move on and go into the many different zodiac signs after that. But just a quick recap from class 1. In the introduction for class 1, we had talked about the astrology and the language of myth. We talked about how the universe had been created using the sound of God's voice. And so that frequency from that sound had created different elements of the earth, had created earth itself, like the land, the daytime, the nighttime, the sun, the moon, all of that. So just with simple sound, the sound of God's voice. And we went into looking at psychiatrist and psychoanalyst Carl Jung and his theories and perspectives, and how it is really important in order to live a full human experience that we all embrace the light and the dark, the day and night sides of ourselves, since we are reflections of the universe itself. And that is my theory, and I'm sure there's other people before me who said the same, who found out the same thing, but I'm here to say that that is true. We are exact reflections of the creation story of the entire universe. Human beings mimic the universe. That is why it is true to say that we're in the image of God, because everyone mimics the image of the universe. So we went over many different ways how that can be true, how that is true. And now we are going to be looking at the planets here in part 1. So when we think about the planets, we have to look at the word planet first. We have to break the word down. This one is really easy because we have just an obvious word. The root word is so obvious in this one. It's plain. It's plain. Now, we know that plain is different. Plane is two different meanings, but there's words that sound like plain but that's spelled differently. However, if we're just sticking to the meaning of plane, it has two different meanings. We can be talking about a vehicle of transportation, such as an airplane, or we can be talking about planes as in different layers, different places in the universe, such as the earth plane versus the cosmic plane and things like that. Either way, there's something about travel involved when it comes to that word. And the Greek felt that this word meant wanderer, a wanderer. No matter what, it's a word that illustrates movement, travel, and it makes you understand that there's distance involved. So back in the day, in Babylonian times, way back then, and some people say Anunnakis or Sumeria, Back in that time, the ancient Sumerian days, there's many secrets from that time. It is like a spider web. It's so many delicate, intricate details of that time. And I remember teaching. The time of the Sumerians, it was a time where all you do is learn and teach. But not everyone around you wanted to listen. So people like Marduk, a king who wanted to be king. It's like, okay, I'll take things my way. So it creates wanderers, people who wander about, and then it creates distance amongst family, makes family more vulnerable to receive attacks from the enemies and have to fight because of one man who created discord within an entire family unit. Since the beginning of time, the people wanted to advance, wanted to be great, wanted to experience more life. So when you have teachers such as myself who have been seeking since the beginning of time, more innovation, you just keep teaching, because the people are going to always pick up where you left off. In every era, so Marduk became Zeus. The Greeks imitated everything from Babylonian times, as well as ancient Egypt. So Marduk became Zeus, king of the gods. Ishtar became Aphrodite. But these figures are actually Asar and Aset. So you have like a lot of things happening in Greek days. The Greeks came in and they just mimicked everything, but the hardest thing that it's ever been to teach century after century after century after century after century, has been that we are all one. Every century it's like you've got to pick up where you left off, and nobody remembers you from the last one. So you become more and more distant. Because your knowledge is born on a different plane. And the plane you always end up on, Earth, every time, you're always surrounded by strangers. But really, they're your family. Everybody. The hardest thing to teach is origins. Because no one wants to believe the beginning. People only think as far as right now. And they don't want to remember with me. Planets are needed in the universe because they helped understand the days of the week and other things too. Like Saturn's day, we know that Sunday, Sun's day, right? Monday, Moon's day. Tuesday, Thoth's day, Egyptian god Thoth. So we have a few examples of how that sounds like it makes sense. That's because it really did help. That's why we have 7 days of the week, because they mimic these planets. However, the week used to be 5 days named after the planet, because we only, back in time, and you could read this, it was just the 5 main planets, and then the last 2 were added later, but only 5 planets were acknowledged a long time ago. Plato revealed to the world that the ancients regarded the planets as having archetypes, these symbols for internal psychological processes. So basically what that means is the way a person thinks, how they are, and how they think they are is all based off of these planetary archetypes. Similar to Carl Jung. Carl Jung actually created some archetypes as well. I think it was 12 archetypes. And I didn't really get into Carl Jung's archetypes in the first class, since I get the concept, but I kind of like just straight archetypes, like going straight off of the planets, which are the zodiac signs. That's what I find that is, since the beginning of time, has been the best way that you can do this. Just the zodiac signs, Aries through Pisces. That's the best archetypes. Marcello Facino, and this part right here about Marcello is on page 12. Marcello Facino discovered that you can use things such as crystals, talismans, meditations, prayers, chants, to work with the planets in order to enhance your own life. Now, how did this Renaissance scholar come across this great idea? How is it that you can use earthly things to connect with the planets, which are celestial things, to enhance your life? Well, remember from yesterday's class, the reason why you can do that is because every human is half celestial and half earthly, which is why every human is perfect in the eyes of God, because every human mimics the first man created, the first woman created. There's a man and a woman, which is why, you see, the world wants you to somehow forget the woman in the original creation. In order for woman to exist in this world, there had to be a first woman. Just like the Son of God. And another thing about Christianity that I want you guys to notice, if they said that God created Adam and Eve first, then why is Adam not the son and Eve not the daughter, but skips down to many generations down to Jesus? So would that make Adam and Eve test subjects? Would that make Adam and Eve not kin? Would that make them less important? That's because the story has been rearranged and cut into 14 pieces, just like the Vitruvian Man. That's a work of Satan in plain sight. Illusion. So you have to understand what's going on, but we can't be upset about the past. Marcelo believed that each person must go through all planets to make it to a higher state of awareness. What does that mean? It means that every person has a birth chart. Sun, moon, rising, Venus, Neptune, Saturn, first house, second house, third house, fourth. Every person has a birth chart, and everybody goes through many different signs, and it affects different areas of your life. Not only that, but since everyone lives, and since everyone exists, the year follows these cycles as well, these planetary shifts, these moon cycles, these lunar cycles as well, which means that as a collective, everyone's going to experience all of these planetary actions at once. So not only do you have your own birth chart where you experience different things, but you also have the planet itself experiencing other planets, shifts, movements, and activities. So that is true. We are coming upon the threshold of a new collective consciousness right now as we speak. A new astrological age. Because human consciousness is in a continued state of evolution. And because of that, we have a huge influence this year in 2025 of Jupiter. Huge. The biggest. Jupiter, astrologically, Sagittarius and Pisces sit under Jupiter. In ancient times, Pisces had always been recognized as being under the sign, the planet of Jupiter, but it has been changed. Remember, the Western world has changed so many things because they felt like they could. The Western world followed the Greeks and the Romans. So a lot of things changed. However, Pisces is connected to Jupiter still, and as well as Neptune. Neptune makes more sense for Pisces, it does, but back then you had two different planets ruling a zodiac sign, and that's what a lot of people do not know, which is why Scorpios rule by Mars and Pluto. But a lot of people didn't know that Pisces was ruled by Neptune and Jupiter. The dream. Think about it. The archetype for the sign of Pisces is the dreamer. And Jupiter is all about destiny. So it's the same word with two different meanings. Sleep dream and a dream as in a wish. Now that makes sense. So in our history, planets told of the times coming up, whether the kingdom was in danger or when it was harvest season and time to feed the families, the villages, the people, okay? So records were kept at times of natural disasters or invasions of the planetary activity, okay? So all of the old like etchings on the walls inside of the pyramids, and before that, like great temples and different like papyrus scrolls and ancient artifacts, like things that were left behind, that were like scribe or things that you find on buildings, walls, that kind of thing. That was the record keeping. So how the ancients had kept record of, different things that would happen in the world, or that would be coming up in the world, is by looking at the planetary activity, studying the stars, watching the seasons change, and so many different things, in order to keep up with everything that was going on, to keep up with everything that was happening. So all of these things were happening before Christianity and a lot of other religions. Christianity came in to regulate the people of Europe, and then the Western world was formed. So the Western world had moved away from a lot of Eastern traditions, a lot of Eastern concepts, because there is so many different things that came in. But the reason why you can't be upset about changes like this, because everyone has their own mind. Everyone has their own mind, even though everyone's minds are connected to God. People are receiving messages in so many different ways, though. See, that's the part where God is connected to everyone's mind. However, the way the messages are interpreted is always different. And that's what makes everyone unique. Everyone's different. But one way that we can regulate on top of a regulation is through astrology. Because no matter if you are Christian or if you're Catholic or something else, no matter if you're Black or you're Korean, one thing is going to be sure: your archetype according to your sign. It doesn't mean that two people from two different backgrounds can both be Sagittarius, which means they both must like travel. It doesn't mean that. With astrology and with archetypes, those are different interests, but that's not archetypes. Travel is an activity. One Sagittarius may love it while the other may not really enjoy it. So that's where people come in and they be like, I told you. That's why I don't believe astrology. That's why, especially men often are like, I told you. That's why, they're like, nope, I don't believe in that. That's just gibberish. You get that a lot. And the Gnostics, not the time of the Gnostics, that's the ones who were saying that. That's who started saying that, who started to debunk this. But the reason why is because you have to be careful with the choice of words when using such a general explanation for a collective group of people. Being that I am an innovator in spirituality, I know what words to use so that it could be true. Because I know people super well. What I can say, if I've got a Black Sagittarius and an Asian Sagittarius, I'm just using this for an example, in front of me, or if I'm getting to know them, what'll make me know that they're both Sagittarians is because of their reactions and responses to me. You see, zodiac signs are connected to elements as well. Fire signs, Sagittarius, they've got a warmness about them, friendly disposition, especially Sagittarians. When you meet a Sagittarian, you feel comfortable, you feel at ease, you feel at peace. They are cool, laid back. A lot of them are. Now, you can get a lot of energy out of them sometimes, and then sometimes they're chilling. But typically I would know one when I see one immediately, or when I have a conversation with one immediately, because it's just this vibe that I totally understand. It feels like the element that they belong to, fire. It feels warm. It feels comforting. It feels like that when talking to a Sagittarius or connecting with one. The archetype has more to do with the personality than the interests, the likes and dislikes. It's just really the archetype and the energy, what you feel when you're interacting with these people. You can see it. You can see it. If I had two Geminis, now even though Geminis are twins, right? Geminis are like, they're two different ways, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. But if I had two Geminis standing in front of me, then it feels like 4 people are there, but it's really 2. How I would know I've got 2 Geminis right there in front of me is because they would be really, really socially accepting. If you try to spark up a conversation, they're not going to run from it unless it's just really a bad day. Now, if it's a bad day, yes, that can happen. But if it's a good day, they'll hear you out, and you may find them networking. It's easy to find out, or it's easy to know for other people. For you guys, it's easy for you to know because you gotta think about it. It's an energy, and it's a personality archetype. It doesn't always mean they have to do the same things alike or like the same things alike. This has everything to do with energy. Astrology reveals personality of the individual. Humanity's earliest civilizations had their own versions of the zodiac wheel based upon the movement of the sun in a 12-month period. So when the sun is in X zodiac sign, that's showing you the movement of the sun through the entire year, through every month. Through every month. The zodiac wheel, so like your sun sign. So like if you're born in March, you could be a Pisces or an Aries. It's like that. The zodiac wheel is the way to communicate with the gods. Now back in the days, the Gnostic time, that's like the one thing they probably did believe, is that you can communicate with the gods through this study of the zodiac. And by the way, the word zodiac means circle of animals, because the stars in the sky it was like playing connect the dots, and they came out looking like animals. It's like similar to when you look up at the clouds, and sometimes clouds look like different things. I don't know who else does it. I'm sure kids do it, but maybe it's just the inner child in me. When I look up and I see certain clouds, I see a lot of things in them. I know a lot of people probably see that. I think 2 of them, like even little kids, cartoons growing up would illustrate little things in the clouds to pique your imagination even further. But 2 things that were popular that I would always see in the clouds, I would see lamb. I'm sorry, not lamb, sheep. I would see those little sheep, and I would see little like piglets, like from Winnie the Pooh. I would see that a lot. Just the shape, it would just pique my imagination. And of course, it was the conditioning in my memory from watching these cartoons or these kids shows growing up. So when I saw something that resembled it, it tickled me, because it was like, oh, look at that, I think it's that. But that's really just me connecting to something that entertained me. So really that's how the zodiac signs happened. It's a circle of animals. They just reminded the gods of the animals around. The ram, all the animals that were around. Bull, all of that. The fish. It's like, oh, this reminds me of that. This reminds me of that thing that I saw crawling the other day. Well, let's call it that. So the sun begins its orbit at Aries, In ancient times, it had been studied that the sun begins its orbit. The sun starts to orbit the earth right at the point of Aries, the number 1 on your clock. The number 1 on your clock. So the sun goes from that point all the way around until it gets to 12. The craziest thing is, in Babylonian times, the priests carried out astrology and not the regular people. The priests, the people in the church, in the temples, I'm talking about in the beginning of time, the priests, the pastors, all the deacons and all the church people were not, because remember, there wasn't a Bible. The Bible before the Bible was the Zodiac wheel. And it really was not a religion-based wheel. It was something used to teach the village, the people in the communities, not only what to do during harvest season, what to not do during winter season. It wasn't just to teach the people how to live and how to operate in the world, but it also taught them ways to understand what the gods already had understood. To see what the gods were seeing. So the priests helped to explain these mathematical, scientific explanations of existence. The priests were, you know what the priests were? In modern day, that's your professors. That's your teachers in modern day. The people who are teaching history and science and all of that, that's your priests in that time that had to teach the people what the gods had found, all of this information, to teach everyone how to be human, what to do, what month is it, what day is next, how many hours is it. The Zodiac will explain the activities of the deities. In studying the stars, the sun and moon told the time, the months, the years. And way back when, we didn't have 12 months. We just had 10 months. A lot of things got changed. The lunar year used to be 13 months instead of 12. But a lot of things have changed. And you may think like, well, how's there 12 zodiac signs, but there used to be just 10 months? Well, because a lot of these signs were divided into 2 signs. Like Virgo and Scorpio were one sign, and then they got split into 2 signs. And then Libra came after. Another thing that some people may not know is that the first 6 signs of the zodiac, starting at Aries, were known as the auspicious signs, or the signs of positive polarity. And the last 6 signs were considered inauspicious and of negative polarity. So basically, good things can happen between March and early September. But anything, is it early September? Basically between Aries and Libra is what I'm trying to say. Aries and Virgo. And then Libra to Pisces, it was just considered inauspicious times to do a lot of things. It was believed that way back then, a lot of things would be inauspicious between Libra and Pisces season. But it's so crazy how much that has changed. And it's a good thing that that changed, because honestly, high crime is summertime in a lot of places. And that's supposed to be an auspicious time according to the ancient times. But I'm glad that that changed. I'm glad that people didn't keep that belief, because I've seen a lot of inauspicious things in the summertime. A lot of people cheat on their girlfriends in the summertime. There's a lot of things going on. But, and you know, winter also symbolized 6,000 years of suffering. Like, people would dread wintertime. It's like, don't get caught out in the wintertime. You're going to have, your whole bloodline's going to suffer. And I'm like, well, that's impossible. And which means that, you know how there's a lot of snow and like these season, like we get all this stuff now. It sounds like way back, maybe a lot of places didn't experience these climate changes like it is now. Because as we see even right now, it's snowing in places that people think it shouldn't be snowing. It's raining in places that normally don't get rain. It's, you know, it's different things that's happening, that's changing so much now compared to the way that it used to be, which means that way in ancient times, there wasn't much winter. It could have started to come maybe during, because even you can tell, and this is how you know I'm not lying. Winter mostly happened up in the northern region, like where, like the igloo, those northern Pacific people. Winter was more winter there, but in a lot of other places, such as like along the Mediterranean and Middle East and Africa, of course, and all these other places, didn't really experience winter as bad or as much. You can look at even the old attire of Roman like statues and stuff, Greek statues, Egyptian tombs and things like that, pictures and artwork and all of these things. They're not really dressed. They're half naked all of the time. It is not that someone with a great imagination just sat down and started to paint all of these people living in these different places at the same day or the same week, the same month, and gave it to us and said, this week right here is called history. Like as if somebody just went out in the springtime and started to give us all this information, all these ancient artifacts, and said, it's not like we're looking at one period of time. If we're seeing many different times and many different civilizations, many different proofs, and they're half naked all the time. What's these little sheath dresses and these toga little things, you know? What's all of that? It wasn't that cold. It just wasn't. So a lot has even changed over time when it comes to weather as well, which is why winter was dreaded, because now we've got to figure out, we've got to get thicker stuff on, and like mostly it's just these sheath dresses and these sandals, or no sandals at all, just walking around half naked. So If you're not familiar, or maybe you are familiar, I'm about to take it to the next level, and this is about to get a little bit deeper here. So the final part of this class today is about something that's very important right now today, literally today. Are you familiar with equinoxes, like different seasonal changes? So the new year, the vernal equinox, is March 21st. March 21st, the springtime, that's the new year. That's new beginnings, the season of Aries, the number 1 on the clock. The start of when the sun starts to orbit around the earth. That's when everything comes alive. Birth, March 21. Summer equinox, June 21. Autumnal equinox, October 21. Or autumnal, that's what they say, but I like saying autumnal, whatever, even if it's the wrong way. Who made words anyway? The winter solstice, December 21. Now, how is it that every season begins on the 21st in these months? Why is it always 21? What is so unique about 21 in astrology, in the planet, in the world, in the universe? What is so unique about that number? There's a few things I want you to pay attention to. Today is 1/21. And where I live, it is snowing. And it doesn't ever snow. I live in the tropics. Never snows. Today is 1/21. This is not the winter solstice. It's not December 21. It's not 12/21. It's 1/21. It is winter time, but it's not the first day of winter. So why is this happening on 1/21? Well, we have to look at something here. We have to see that something is repeating itself, or there's a mirror up and something is mirroring itself. Each zodiac sign has a meaning and is associated with a planet, such as Aries being birth and beginnings, such as Taurus representing fertility, such as Gemini representing the duality of body and soul, twins, such as Cancer representing family. But we go down to Pisces. Pisces represents division. Spirituality, psychic, all of that as well. But the main reason for the constellation of Pisces is division. Two fish going in two different directions. And when you see the symbol for Pisces, it kind of looks like the symbol for Cancer, yin yang. It kind of looks like that. But it's two fish. Which means that if you look at a division sign, there's a dot up at the top, there's a horizontal line beneath it, and then another dot underneath that. Now that's your division. And these dots represent the eyes of the fish. So you can take a pen and a piece of paper and draw some fish. So there's this line there separating the two fish. You have a fish going left and a fish going right. And there's something separating them. Now, my question for this class is, what is that line called? If you remember, what separates the waters from the waters? What separates the waters from the waters is called the vault. And God called the vault the sky. Right? So one fish goes in one direction up above the firmament, and the other fish goes in the opposite direction in the water on land, on earth. So we have these waters here, but where God sits, the water flows one way, and where the humans are, the water flows another way. So this division line is the sky, which means Pisces. That's the reason why Pisces has this connection to Neptune. The dreams, which are connected to the subconscious mind, which is connected to nighttime. The moon, everything psychic, everything mystical. Right? The number 12 is a mystical number because we've got 12 moon phases, and our day is divided into two parts, each 12 hours apiece. The day is 12 hours and the night is 12 hours, equaling 24 total hours in a day. There's 12 apostles of Christ, 12 tribes of Israel. There's even 12 gates at the kingdom of God. There's 12 Chinese zodiac signs and 12 animals to match them based on a 12-year cycle. Since 5th century BC, all of these things were written and were found to have some type of significance to what's going on in the world today. Today is 121. Revelation 21:12, chapter 21, verse 12, describes a city with a great wall and 12 gates, each with 12 names of the 12 tribes of Israel. The gates are divided. There's your division. The gates are divided into 4 quadrants with 3 gates in each quadrant. The wall of the city has 12 angels standing there. The gates symbolize security and serve as memorials as well. So in this Bible excerpt, the 12 gates come down from heaven to new earth, shining with the glory of God. In this case, 12 represents God's divine government. God's divine government. Which means that God is involved in this now. God is involved in your government now. And today is the first day. In this Bible verse, if you were reading it and you count the 11th word, it's gates. Let Let me tell you why I counted that. The reason why is because the planet Jupiter, I began the class today talking about how important Jupiter is for the whole year of 2025. We're under the influence of Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet of dreams, destiny. Jupiter is right now currently in the sign of Taurus. Jupiter is the 9th planet. Taurus is the 2nd planet. 9 and 2 is 11. Jupiter is also the planet of the planet that governs Pisces, right? Pisces is the 12th sign. And if you add the 1 and the 2, that's a 3, right? From Pisces being the 12th sign, that's a 3. And then if you're adding Jupiter to, Jupiter is the 9th planet, right? 9 and 3, you're getting 12. And then you have Aquarius. January 21st is Aquarius season. Aquarius is the 11th zodiac sign. Right now, Jupiter is at its declination of a positive 21 degrees and then 38 and 48. I don't know how to read that, like in English form, the way they wrote these numbers. I don't know how you say all that, but 21, 38, and 48. You have 21, 8 and 3 is 11, 4 and 8 is 12. You're getting constant sequences, constant synchronicities here of 21, 12, 21, 12, 21, 12. Constantly. It's like going back and forth. 21, 12, 21, 12. Like it's back and forth. So there's something, remember, something I said about mirroring happening here. Or could it be that the fish is going in one direction above the firmament in the waters above as 21 or 12, and the waters down below are 21 or 12. So one has to be 21, one has to be 12, because they're reflecting each other. It's like split images, and they look like they're going in two different directions, but only because of the effects of that reflection. That's like when you look into water, sometimes a ring that's on your left hand looks like it's on your right hand when you look at yourself in a puddle of water. It's like it does that, it has that effect. So that's what's going on here today. Why today? Why is this important? Why did I bring all of this up? Why did I break all of the numbers down? And we're getting 21 and 12. Why is this important? Why is this relevant to understanding the planets in astrology? (12) and 21. Why is that so important? Why is that relevant? It's simple. The reason why this very powerful number is being mirrored in this way on this day, and all of these strange coincidences that are occurring around this, we have to look at Pisces again. And we have to understand What is Pisces trying to, the 12, right? What is Pisces trying to divide? Why is this division trying to come in specifically at this time under this influence of Jupiter? We have to look at the actual modern day planet, I'm sorry, zodiac sign that Jupiter governs. That's Sagittarius. And this is here to bring higher consciousness to individuals. So, do you know what that means? Humans are supposed to be a reflection of God, right? Humans are the reflection of God. But you have God going in one way and the people swimming in the other way, which is creating the divide between you and your higher conscious. So the reason why all of this huge event, planetary shakeup, has occurred today in this way, and why all of this is relevant, is because this is the first day where people are about to become aligned to stop swimming in a different direction. It's time for a universal higher consciousness evolution. Everyone is about to elevate to a higher level of consciousness, coming over that threshold, that vault. Remember, on the human body, that's the heart. So we now have change about to come in. And the real judgment has just begun. The book of Revelation. Judgments have begun. And it's going to be based on people's hearts. How things are being handled now. And that's going to be the only way to ascend, is when people really find God. Is no longer going to be swimming in the other direction. You're going to have to come this way in order to make it. You got to make it. It's about jumping the threshold at this time. Higher consciousness, Sagittarius energy. Travel. Sagittarius, one of the main characteristics of Sagittarius is travel of the sign. And I started out talking about planets. What's the root word of planet? Plane. Plane. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. So you know what Jupiter is serving as in 2025? The vehicle. The mode of transportation to get everyone over that threshold back to God. And how do you do that, class, before I end the course for today? How do you do that? Through the heart. Through love. Respect. And anyone that isn't doing this, you're going to get lost in that current. Because God is obviously advancing the world. That's the power of 12 and 21. All right. Thank you guys so much. God bless.